Hello there, my name is Cogneto, and I'm going to do a short base review today on SpaceX and Krastorio 2. We're calling this Cogneto's Copper Odyssey due to the massive challenge to undertake decent copper production to get you into the sustainable research in space. So to start off, we can have a look at the requirements that I came up as a baseline. Generally, this is all in blue belts. I require 4 for the main bus, 2 for orbital cannons, but we'll likely need more, 4 for batteries, 2 for simple components, electric engines, motors, different other smaller pieces, 2 for lithium batteries, 6 for low density structures that we'll need a lot more for, 32 for green circuits, 12 for red circuits, and currently my science and modules is running off my main bus, but those will likely require expansion as well. So before going to space, I set myself a target of getting 64 blue lanes of copper to get me to that point. So we'll have a look now at one of the facilities that I've created. Looking at the map, it's a fairly large facility. It takes in 7 stations, 2 belts each, so 14 belts of copper ore, 2 belts of vulcanite, and 1 train of sulfuric acid to run this. It's quite easily to see that we're using our enrichment process here to take ore, convert it into enriched ore, and then move it into smeltery lines to then ship it out to 8 stations out, or 16 blue belts out here. As I said, we've set this up with sulfuric acid, so we can use our enrichment process. We do have a station set up for vulcanite. Once we have those outposts in space, we can easily pipe vulcanite into here and change the recipe on the smelters to allow us to use the vulcanite recipe. We've also using our recycling here with the wastewater from the process. This produces, albeit a negligible amount of copper and stone. This is filtered directly back into the system, and the stone is filtered out to a station here that takes in stone and has a train that picks it up to recycle it, to take it to a separate stone facility for processing. There's a few things that we can go through here. You can see some simple circuitry here. My old base was designed before the changes came into Factorio that allowed you to set a station limit. So these circuits basically take a read of the buffer warehouse, and as the buffer warehouse drops below 60k, it outputs 1 green signal, and if it drops below 30k, it outputs a second green signal, allowing this train limit to increase by 1 or 2 to allow trains to flow in and refill the buffer. It's a very efficient system, meaning that no trains sit in the station waiting to unload. They're all safely at their nodes of ore, waiting for signals from any stations to come and fill them up. All of our trains are fueled as part of this depot as well, using these stations here. These logistics and fueling stations at a central point allow me to not have to take fuel out to the mining outposts. So it's a step that you don't have to take when you're building a mining outpost to fuel your trains as well. The further circuitry down here basically just takes a measurement from the warehouse, and if this measurement hits 0, it sends off a signal, an alarm to me to tell me that there is no ore available. There's also a simple system in here to prevent ore coming in from the station once the outflow from the recycling. If there's any copper available, it uses that first before allowing other copper to come in, making sure that this never backfills and stops the system from running. Water is also recycled back into this plant here from the dirty water cleaning process and shipped back out. The two pumps here basically take water from here, put it inside, but they won't fill this tank beyond 100k. And if the tank ever fills up past 180k or 190k in this case, it's vented out in flare stacks to make sure that it's not blocking the system. Using the new system as well, I've taken on a new way of naming my stations to make them quite simple. So you can see here that all my stations that require ore have the same name. So any of these stations one can request. You'll see they're blue now because they're not requesting any trains. But if there is a request from any of these stations, they turn white and a train comes and fills them up immediately. On the outflow side, it's quite easy to see what each of these stations do. This one is taking copper and supplying to the bus. The S stands for supply, D stands for demand, and as you see, as per my notes, we have 4 blue belts going out to the bus here. We have another 4 going to batteries, another 1 going to simple components. As said, your motors, your electric motors, your automation coils, and your handles. We have a recycling post in each of these stations as well to make sure that the stone is taken away. And we have the vast majority of our stations that are sending most of the copper to green circuit production. There's a few others here. Red circuit production also requires a significant amount of copper. And we also have copper stored out to go to the orbital cannons, to go for lithium batteries, and to go to low density structures. So currently these 4 copper plants are supplying 64 belts of copper. It's quite a substantial amount, and I probably won't scale it much further than this unless it's required after I get into space. A few nuances. Building these facilities can take quite some time, even with personal robots. So you'll see that this first station here still has its building structure, its construction infrastructure, where there's a storage warehouse that has all the materials in it, and this part of the factory is covered by a logistics network, allowing you to stamp down this blueprint, put in 300 bots and your materials, and they build the facility for you while you wait. It allows you to go off and do other work in the factory, and it's a fairly efficient way of doing it. So I generally save this as a blueprint, and then afterwards I use a deconstruction planner, pan it over, and remove all of the excess robotic ports. So next, I suppose, as an example to how useful this new system is for setting up trains, I can show you my train list at the moment. I have a large amount of stations, and as you can see, the old system I had was labeling each station and making sure that it had a corresponding destination so I could track everything, whereas my new system of labeling copper means I can have 28 stations all with the same name for both providing ore and receiving ore. And you can see here that between these two I have 42 trains, and there's 4 missing. So I use this as an example to show you just how easy it is to get one of these stations running. So if I look around, I can see that we have a ore station right here. I can take a copy of this this train here. I can go to one of the places where we get ore in, and I can just add 4 trains. I can also add their carriages quickly. And then I just shift click onto these trains, and as you can see, they now have what's required to go to their stations and wait to be used in the structure. At this point, all I have to do is wait for them to be full, which they already are of fuel, I can hit the automatic button, and away they go. Some of the trains will be on the opposite way. If it starts at the wrong step, they can get blocked, but you can just move them to the next step, and they'll go patiently wait for signals. And we've now got a full suite of trains covering up our platforms. 28 plus 28 equals the total of the number of the trains that we need. So the trains are extremely easy to set up. No random numbering. You can just copy and paste, and they'll fit into your network perfectly. So the inputs. So as I've shown you the ore and the examples of the mining operations are set, I generally have each operation set up with as much production and speed as I can get into them, and I try and get 8 lanes, blue lanes, out of every system, and have 2 blue lanes per station that has 2 trains. The sulfuric acid comes from a separate facility where we're taking crude oil and iron, stripping all the crude oil down into petroleum, getting sulfur, and producing vast quantities of sulfuric acid. These 3 stations, one is to cover the sulfuric acid requirement for the copper, the other iron, and the other is to cover blue belts and any other materials that we need. Looking at this will have to be expanded as well. So that's the entirety of the copper infrastructure that I currently use. We also, I suppose we can talk about future plans with this build. Krastorio gives us great opportunities to build new facilities, better mining drills, much better chemical plants, much better. If you see the advanced chemical plants here and the advanced furnaces, these will make these facilities much smaller, and the extra beacons put into play by space exploration allow them to become far more efficient. So the aim will be to get to these as well as upgrading to the best belts we can get, and the best inserters or loaders that we can get as well to increase throughput. I could foresee one of these facilities being upgraded to green belts, and instead of taking 2 trains out of these stations, you could take 4. So that would be the future aspiration of that. So that's really it. That's a very, very large build. Again, I thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in seeing more of these, or if you want to see some of the other builds that I currently have in play, by all means, ask for them, and as time allows, I can do them. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't monetize this, and I'm not looking for subscribers. But I'm always happy to hear some feedback about the factory that I'm running on here. Anyway, I've been Cogneto, and thank you very much.